Yeah, hello and welcome to the Camp Venlo, and please follow all the social channels. There's a team behind, and they like and love likes. They make this happen because they are going super early, waking up in the morning, carrying all the stuff here, and give them thumbs up and honor their work. And this is important. My name is Roland. I am developer. I have Never Code Alone. As a community, make a lot of open source stuff. Grab a water here, but you can still hear me. Actually, I am AI engineer at iAble, an famous accessibility company, and they have also the topic reporting, and I bring in AI features to this reporting tool to automatically fix accessibility issues, and I'm focused on this topic since maybe 5 years or something like this. So the first thing I want to ask you, who already started to make something accessibility for the web pages? This is all of you. And you are using tools in your browser like SilkTide. Do you already know SilkTide? Who is using SilkTide? That's a half. And so, what kind of tool are you using?
Just like the basic Lighthouse.
Lighthouse is from Google, and there's also X plugin. There are a few tools out of sight where you can check the page that you are actually watching in your browser if this has accessibility issues. And this is definitely the start to check out if a web page has issues. So let's check. How was the URL of this webcamp, by the way? webcampvenlo.nl. So we have this program here. Yes, this is okay, yes. Too much traffic, yes. After the lunch, everybody's checking to what kind of talk they want to go. But maybe this is also because here my internet connection has also no connection, but we believe in internet. Yeah, this is also some kind of barrier for accessing internet. It's also you have to take a device, and this is all something what has to do with accessibility. Maybe when I switch here, because 5 minutes ago I had already internet, we will fix this. So come on and access. Why? Why? Not, but we can do this also maybe. Yes. Maybe I make also, next time I have here an avatar who's also funny like me. This is a challenge. Other avatars are working well. But it's not so funny, huh? Believe in, it's a church. We all believe in now that it will work, and then it will work. Hab ich doch. Ja, hab ich doch. Klar. Das Hotspot. Ist aus. It's not connecting anymore. Why? What is the code of this? Is Dominique is not working? Also, do you have internet there?
Internet, yeah.
Okay.
On domani.
Okay, what is the code?
Venlo, Venlo.
Venlo. Try it. Never have an error like this. It's connected and has no internet or something like this. What can we do? Restarting? It's a long way, but mostly of the time it will fix issues. Cannot believe why, but maybe we do this one time. It's something like this. So, the main thing of accessibility. You sometimes think it's a new law that is coming up and you need to do things for the clients and you have to tell the clients, hey, please do these things, and then you will get a penalty. Yes, and this is a wrong target because the thing is, when you make something for accessibility, you check out your page with other eyes. I think this is some different point of view on your web page. You are just seeing your web page like you are sitting before, reading the things, and you definitely go, hey, it looks nice, and scroll about, and do not look at a particular section if this section makes sense for users to convert here as good content. The first thing that or the main benefit of tools was in the beginning of my accessibility actions that I have the screen reader out of SilkTide, and there is a point, it's focus order, and this focus order gives you a chance to see what a screen reader sees. And with this point of view, it was clear that my page cannot convert from users to clients because nobody is understanding the content what is on the page. Okay, maybe this was not the best turn for YouTube, but we are open source and show anything what we have. So it's looking like internet, and when it breaks, then we have to capture all the other talk. Don't look so good, yes? Applause on the rankings. No, hey, it's no problem. I fixed something with a new start. This is why I'm AI consultant and know anything about it. It's just a restart and everything fixes. So, back to my page. Wow. This is a preview page. It also will work, but maybe. So, back on this page. Then we have here the Camp Venlo program and start page. Okay. So, what is important on this page? What is the target of this page? What they want to do? Where they get the money? They want to sell tickets. The most important thing on this page is what? The button to give me money. Here is a button in the first visible part that says, please give me money. And the most pages on websites do not say, please give me money. You visit web pages and they sell nothing. This is an important thing that you want to understand, that you have when you want to have a successful web page. that you need something that sells something. What can you say about the button here? Can you read it good? Is it big enough? Most important trust maker? Yes. So they spend a lot of effort on social media. They buy ads. They say, please visit our page. Go to Webcam Venlo. Go to Webcam Venlo. Buy it, buy it, buy it. They get the whole crowd of the internet on this page. And the only thing is here, this get your ticket now little button, and everything other could be more important. And sometimes people do not see this kind of button. Yes? Okay, so the thing is, when you use SilkTide the first time, SilkTide, you have this accessibility checker, and this is something what checks accessibility for this page. And now you have here this 27 images has no alt text. These are the speakers that are on this page, and they don't have any kind of alt text. This is okay, because this is an overview of all speakers, and when a screen reader comes in, it's a decorative image. People who come around want to see, okay, there is a program, and on this program there are speakers, and they want to read the names and what they are talking about. And they don't want to see profile image of, what is the name of the first guy, by the way? Can you read it? But this is the most important speaker. This is the first speaker of the most important topic of speakers of this very successful event, and you cannot read any kind of names of the page. It's okay that they don't have alt text, because you want to see what is the name and what is he doing, about what topic he is speaking. Where's the information on what topic are they speaking? So this could be that there is a Roland Golla.de, and under this would be nevercodealone.de. And when you go around this type of content with a screen reader, you will see here, I don't know exactly the name here, it's Emil Brock, Zuse, Fabian Maus, Nextcloud, but there's nothing what brings you in the content. So accessibility, when you go to accessibility, you will improve your website to make a much better conversion. Okay, so in this context, it's not an error that the alt text is not filled. But tools are detecting this kind of error, and the right thing that you have to do here is, I have this right click. Here is okay, that is a profile image with a guy with glasses and a hat on the top. It's not a profile image of Emil Brock, because everybody knows that this is an image of Emil Brock. When you have here an image of me, then you say it's an image of Roland Golla, nobody who cannot see can recognize how Roland Golla is looking like. And he knows that there's a guy, speaker, like Roland Golla, but nobody knows what is this kind of guy, because I have long hair and beard and glasses. This is the information what you need to transport, not my name. You can say, man with long hair and beard and glasses, Roland Golla speaker from Germany, or something like this. But make something that people see. This is the information that you need to transport. And do not go forward like this SEO stuff and put every time the name or the title from the right. There's bio Emil Brock, and mostly when you don't have any kind of alt text, sometimes you just get this headline as alt text to the image. And then this will read it 2 times, the same content. So let's go back to the start page and go to the thing what kind of errors are here. So it's okay that in the overview page, it's okay that link text, they have to be empty. This is okay for the accessibility checkers. Then you have this text contrast, and you have here speakers. And this is also something what pages can be super good to have this gray colored things. You have on Tailwind, I say you need something like gray more than 800 or 900 to make it readable. Because when you have this light gray parts, you cannot read your main navigation very good. But this is the main navigation. This is the most important navigation of your web page. People need to access this. Sometimes screen reader can better access main navigations than for us visible people. I know some kind of pages where you have good advantages when you only go with a screen reader on it, because you can start to read the page. These are low-hanging fruits. Never use this gray stuff. Also here on text, sometimes this is the gray stuff where the headline, and then there's gray stuff. Remove all these gray things. You see this here on every kind of the main navigation. So get your ticket now, and you know this, that the contrast is here also not so good, but this is the most important call to action here on this page. And you have this color contrast, and color contrasts are low-hanging fruits. Do this. I will later show you something on my page what is better. The other thing that are background images and text over background images are never working. Mostly the text here on images is white. Here they try to make this image very white and make a black text on it. What is not working? You cannot see the picture right. You cannot read the text right. And this is the most important. This is the first content what you give the user. And it fails on every time here. So make it better. Make the image to the side. Say this is a community of 24 in a group, all people smiling or something like this. And then you have a clear header. This is a hero section. This is called hero section because it's the hero section of your page. So make a hero of this section and not some kind of this stuff. Okay. The rest is here semantic links and missing title, and so this is not the most important thing. You can here check how it also looks when you have the AAA standards, and there comes a few issues up. Just fix the issues, because when you fix these issues, your page will be much better, and you have a professional page, and professional pages convert much better. This is something what you already know about text contrast things. Now, the client will say, hey, we have this orange, and we want to have this orange everywhere because this is our brand color, and everybody needs this brand color everywhere. I also am a client, and I'm a client by myself, so it's super hard to fight with myself. I have also a brand color, and this is light green. And this light green do not have enough contrast for important actions on my page to sell products of me. So I switched from this green to a green 800 to make my buttons work. And also you see here that's a navigation, and it was in gray, has a gray tone, and this is now dark, and so you can access it much better. Also here were everywhere light gray text, what was not readable. And now it's all black text, or nearby 90% black text, so you can read this stuff. Also my call to actions, this was a green thing before with this light green, and I think it has white text on it, and you cannot read the most important call to action buttons. These are two products what we want to say. The one is that we have this raw refactoring, what is a product name, where you can say we make your legacy code away and clean this up with a lot of tools. But this is what we sell and what we want to sell. And the other thing is that we help on accessibility web design. And then there are two call to actions what are now also clearer. The one is a refactoring service. So the call to action says now, go to the refactoring service. Before there was just a more info. And more info will not convert because, hey, they have this refactoring and they have a refactoring service. And we don't find it out that we need this refactoring service as call to action buttons. We just had there more info, like it was on the template, and we don't think about it. We say, hey, it's clear that when you come to this section and press a more info button, you buy our products. This is a clearer call to action, and this was something what we do not ever check because we watched only this page with our eyes. And so you have this here, this part of focus order. There's a thing that you need when you go to pages. You come in with a screen reader and you have this kind of tab index when you say here, when you tap through your page, this is the first test that you can do, that your focus is highlighted. Check this on your pages if this works, and if this is already highlighting it, that it's totally clear where you are. Just also start to going on with pages that you go forward with this tab to navigate through your pages to get a feeling about how your page is working for tab and for tab thing. A lot of advantage. You see here that I came in and go to the first thing of the main navigation. There was no skip to content. The skip to content must not be highlighted, but normally you have the skip to content when it's on focus. You see this, that you directly can go to the content and skip navigation. This is a super low-hanging fruit, and when you don't have this, you don't have the skip to content, and skip to content is something that the most of the accessibility tools will not trigger you. You don't have the skip to content button. And when you never use the skip to content button, and I also do not using this skip to content button, I also have to implement it on the Never Code Alone page. But it's not there, and you can just easy go in. And when you say LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a super good accessibility page. I don't want to open here now my LinkedIn profile on YouTube, but they don't have only a section go to the contents, so they also have go directly to your messages, and they give a little menu on the skip to content section, what is highlighted. Perfect. Use something like this. This makes professional web pages. What I have done here to go around with this tab index costs a lot of time. And you have here this focus order. And the focus order says directly where you jump when you go. It's just for the links. Screen reader will check. Screen reader have different kind of menus. Give me all of headlines, give me all of links, and they have shortcuts. But this is an indicator how people or how your navigation structure is on your page and how search engines come in to detect it, and also people with screen readers go on this page, and sometimes it looks spectacular. You also see that here is something going up on the right side. So you go around this, and here you have this. You see this 20 here. So there are 3 times read it, February the 13th, February the 14th, February the 15th is read by the screen reader. The party and city tour, the important information, is not read by a screen reader. And why is the date the most important information of this section and not the headline of the city tour? The city tour is a spectacular thing and not the date. Here is the order wrong. Makes the city tour on top, then the description, and then the date. This is also something for every visible people to make this better. Improve your content with accessibility tools. Then your page will convert much better. And then you can come around here, and the best thing is that you see here on the left page, you don't have to go forward with the screen reader. You have a screen reader here, and the screen reader will tell you how screen readers go in your page. So the first thing when you go on with the screen reader to the start page here is web area. Okay? And then you click the next step, and then it says, hey, link, skip to main content. It's there, and I don't see it on this part. This is good that it's there, because my page don't has it. The next thing is that you have a link image, typo 3 camp logo. This is okay. It's not telling you the target, that it's going to the start page, but it's okay that it's there. Sometimes there are different, also on my logo, there was 3 times link to start page, link to start page, link to start page, because I want to make it super accessible. And I ask an AI, make the best accessibility HTML part for my logo, and they give me a logo, and yeah, I believe that it was the truth. And then, no accessible text was found. Entered navigation list with 7 items. Happy birthday, your main navigation is not accessible with a screen reader. Okay, and then you can go here. There's something, these tools are not, sometimes the error messages shows a bit harder, and you have to make some experience with it. But you see what is standing here on this, the content here. Then you have the heading, 10th webcam Venlo, February 5th. This is an important information. Yes, it's okay. You have the link, check the program, 24, and this is something what is on the button. On the button there's another information than get your tickets. Maybe it's an ARIA label or something else. But nobody from us will go to the HTML text and figure out what is in there. So go forward with it. And when you don't want to go forward, and all this click, 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 it's okay. So you have this here, February 13th, and you have the heading 4. This is not a heading 4, by the way, and you cannot see that it's a heading here. I cannot see it, that it's a heading. It's a bit better or something like this. I think this is more than a heading 2 or something. It's something important for your page. It's not a 4. And yeah, from this part I cannot go. Then you have this paragraph text. And then you have the next here, and this is how screen readers, this is a screen reader with simulation, but the thing is, just makes this focus order and check on this focus order all these things here. Do not have any information. What is this kind of link? So now it's a detailed view of a picture or whatever. And it's super easy to start with something like this and to improve your page. And when you have done improving on these pages, you have a much clearer page and a much clearer page content. And I start with this, and I have now this focus order. And here we come in with this link here. It's also only link. I have to fix it because it's a link to the start page. Then we have the links here, what are buttons, because they have drop-downs. There's more functionality on it. There are definitely buttons here. And then we have these links here to DE and EN. Sometimes this have no accessibility text for this language menu. You can also make clearer that it's a language menu or a language switcher here. And yeah, this is the other thing, what is really spectacular. On my page, you have here this section. And this is my most best section I ever have in my life, because this is a video where I make an introduction to my PHP service, and it's automatically answered by, translated by an AI tool. I don't know if you hear it, but now you can hear me on Finnish, Swedish, and Norway. It's lip synchron, and it's super funny. And it's super easy to bring your services to other countries, and it's also super funny. Yes, it's funny when I talk Finnish. It's here super funny, and people say, "Hey, what is when somebody calls you from Finland and you cannot speak Finnish?" And I say, "I think they will understand the joke, and nobody will come from Finland to my page. It's just an AI gag." Yeah, we have traffic from Finland, and we have questions from Finland. And yeah, we are in contact with Finnish companies to doing PHP refactoring. Spanish is also very good. This is a section about an introduction of our PHP services on YouTube videos. The headline is PHP Ruhr Refactoring Consulting, what is not describing the content, what is there. Then you have an image and nobody knows, hey, this is duplicate. The headline is the same in the image, and nobody is understanding that the target is there, that we have different YouTube videos with different languages where I speak Spanish, and what is super fun. Nobody understands this section than me and my wife. Because they only see there's PHP refactoring consulting and there are flags under it. For what? For opening the page on Finnish or what? So describe what your page is doing, and that tell people, please click on the flag because it's super funny. Also, I have here Netherlands, Dutch, by the way. And here, when you see our focus order, you see here, link Astro, blah, 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 and then you see here, link German, English, Espanol, France. Who will understand this? And when you see this, it's clear that also visible people do not understand the flags and what is this thing, because there is not even a YouTube logo on it or something like this. Okay, fine, we have to go forward. So, start with these tools and improve your page. Now this page is much better has a much better conversion, and we have this here, this kind of glossar items. And this glossar items, maybe PHP refactoring is on this audience a bit better. We have here something like PHP units, I think. Where is it? Oh, PHP 10, it's maybe also. So when you start making things with accessibility tools, you improve your page. Now we have this chapter overview, what is very good. We have a clear Einleitung as headline. We have this page has a much better structure, much better reading, much better overview, much better call to actions, team workshop, or call us, not just contact. It's also sometimes that you have just contact me, and then a telephone number is opening, or a contact form, or whatever. So here it's clear. You make a team demo workshop. You think maybe you're going to a calendar item or something like this, but you can call me. And this is clearer. So you have this FAQ section. This FAQ section has definitely directly Google rich snippets with JavaScript, and because of this rich snippets, this page ranks in heaven. So the thing is, when you go forward and every time watch one page and fix the problems, makes this up and check, is this working? And next week you check another page, and you don't have a history of your pages or of your advantages and how you grow. So there's a tool. It's a dashboard iable. .com. What is a professional tool? I have here 2 pages. Here is my Never Code Alone page. And also I can switch it to English. Okay, and now I have a dashboard about all my accessibility on my page. And I have here my history. And this is my history about 2 weeks, I think. And this is a history since I started. So here I started on this company. And I was on the job interview. It's maybe 15 weeks ago or something like this, end of November. And I have a very good Never Code Alone page because Access Green and Silk Tide, and I make 3 years of accessibility website testing, and then I have this job interview. And the manager was on this job interview, and he said, "Hey, Roland, I put your domain in our tool, and I can show you the report." And I was, what's the report say? Yes, I'm the most important accessibility developer from Germany, and I don't have any kind of errors on my page. And he said, "Hey, it's super cool, but you have here 3,000 issues on this page." And I thought I was green. Yes, and so I start to work on these issues because now I have this tool, and I can. It's an overview on all pages, and with this overview, you see here how much percent you have, how much problems you have on level A or on level A or triple A issues, and you see here what are the most issues on your page. And then you can say text contrast. I hate gray, and I want to destroy all the gray on my pages. And then you can show here, give me all issues with gray. You see I'm fixing here something. Every 2 weeks on Sunday evening, I pick a page and make some contrast away, and then I push it, and then it's going down from the target of the issues. But I have here all these pages, and on these pages you see PHP 7 update to PHP 8. This is our most important product. We want everybody to go on this page to bring us money. And when they cannot read the content of this page, they will not bring us money. So we can go to this page here, and it says here, there are this gray navigation points, and also you have gray text on it, and you can make this better just by finding out the things. And you can see here that you have some kind of gamification and something like this. And this makes fun. And now you have here 2 statistics, and this is my closing words. You see here, I fixed a lot of issues. Thousands of issues I fixed with a few color contrast checker. But the accessibility over time is not going up or rising up. It's here 73%, and now it's 77%. Let me explain this on an example. When you have a house with stairs, like here, and you say you make this accessibility, and remove all the stairs, or put in the elevators and ramps and all the stuff, then you are going down with the right statistics that you make this audience stuff here, accessibility for wheelchairs with a ramp, then you fixed the 7 stairs issues. Then you fixed 7 issues when you make this ramp there. But when you have stairs in front of your building, nobody can still access the building. So you can go on a few parts better by wheelchair, but you cannot go to the church or in the church by wheelchairs. And the left statistics, and this is a statistic, what is the value if you have accessibility, a good accessibility to your page or not, what the law will say. Okay, you fixed a few of text contrast errors, but you are not accessibility because you must have here a value from 80% or something like this. The only thing is that you can improve your page when you make one issue completely away. Like the stairs. When you fixed everything with stairs, then the left side will say, hey, this is better because everybody can reach every kind of room in this church. And then you see, okay, this is something what is going here, and you have these issues. You have an issue overview, and you are developers, or maybe even not developers. So you have here an issue, influence text contrast errors. This error is on 82 pages, still existing, and makes 439 errors in value. So you have to fix maybe 10, 15, 20 templates to bring this down. And then it will disappear because actually it's now on 82 pages, and the last row here is the impact. The impact of text control contrast is 3.79. When I fix all the issues from text contrast, where I'm making it since months, I'm fixing these issues. But you see here, link must have accessible text. There is one page where this link is 43 times and brings me a skill from 3.47. And when I look at this error here, this is on a subpage where is the web sprinter, what has a different kind of page, but here you have this error, all failed on this page, and there you have, this is the thing, that you have the social media links. The social media links is going to Facebook, class Facebook, and so on, and this has an icon in it, and nobody can read what is on the icon. So you have here, when a screen reader comes around, yes, you have, like the error said, you have this, what was the name on this error? Links must have accessible text. There is no accessible text on this link, but it's only on this page. On the social media items, there are 5 items, and when I fix this area, this error with an ARIA label and say to Facebook landing page or whatever, you don't say link to Facebook on the ARIA label because the screen reader is really clear that it's a link. It only wants the information where it's linking to, so you say Facebook fan page. Then I fix 5 icons, and I got an impact from 3 up to the whole score of accessibility. And this is something what you cannot see in other tools. And you can sort this stuff here and check what kind of impact is here and where you can go. Here's also, iframe has no accessibility name. It's coming directly from YouTube. YouTube gives you HTML string what has no accessibility name. Tailwind, out of the box, don't have a line height from 1.5, and the color contrast of the blue from the Google overview page has not enough contrast to make it accessibility. And you believe that these pages have this accessibility, and it's totally wrong. But you will find this with tools like this. So, conclusion, start with tools, fix your own page. It will make your page much better. And when you have better pages, you can produce much more better pages also for your clients, and you can show them, hey, when your page is like my page, it has better conversion than your page. Thank you for your attention. Do you have any questions?
Do not trust automatic testing alone, because there is stuff in there which can't be automated, can't be done automatically.
Okay. I believe in automated things. Also, a few weeks later, they are. By the way, iAble is working on a shop. And there will be a Never Code Alone a link to it where you get all these tools for 4 weeks or something like this for your page for free. So I bring you for 4 weeks this tool.
Hey everybody, thanks for coming. I've actually got 2 decks ready and 2 things we could talk about. This came up, I think, first in the conversation, the notion of the relationship between design systems and content management systems. So that's one thing, and this is a pretty quick deck, and I'd love to just start a conversation about it, but I also want to budget time and kind of assess the interest in the ontological thinking stuff that I talked about. That's a little more, okay, there's at least one. It's a little more not esoteric, but it's I think it's a really fundamental mindset shift that has really helped me. But it sounds like there's a little more interest in design system stuff. Is that a correct assumption? Yeah. So I'll go through this little deck first, and oh, it's mirroring. Yeah, I'm sorry. Basically, I'm a content modeler. I've done content modeling. I did mostly website stuff for many years, and increasingly over the last 5 years, I've done more complex, like enterprise content systems. Things like I worked at Expedia, kind of sourcing content from like God knows where and putting it, getting it ready for user experience designers to use in apps. And so that was kind of adjacent to the design system. I was doing like attribute-based product content modeling as well as UX string modeling and trying to get that all. Anyhow, I'll talk about that, but that's just by way of background of saying that I've done a lot of stuff kind of beyond just website content, and that sort of informs some of this. But basically, we'll start with website stuff because that's what everybody knows. When you think about what we're working with as content managers and content creators and content people, you've kind of got, like, if you look in the upper right of this slide, we've got like the strings stuff that we're dealing with, UX strings, like short, simple, sometimes expressed as variables in code, that you kind of replace with whatever the thing is. That's one kind of content element that we're dealing with. The other kind is like what I call a fragment. By the way, I know every I don't know what Typo 3 calls this kinds of things, and I know every CMS ecosystem I've ever become a part of, everybody has their own names for these. These are my names, and this is not universal. It's just, and there's only 4 in mine. There may be 12. There may be 2. So this is my little tiny lizard brain way of thinking about it. So there's strings, and then you have these things like an address is what I call a fragment, because it's something where you might have the full address, city, state, postcode, elevation. There's all kinds of things that can be associated with an address. It's a single entity, it's like that location, but you might use just the city state in some places. You might have just the street name for others, the number and the street name in other situations. So I call those fragments, sort of like they're reusable but more complex than a string. And then you get into these things like little pre-assembled chunks of stuff for, in this case, a web page that I call modules. These are things that they might be able to stand on their own, but not really. They're generally part of a larger assembly. And so I call those modules. And then there's the whole thing. Like this is expressed in this case as a web page. But the way I think about it as a content modeler is that it's like all this information that you see here is bundled up in a way that's ready for the front-end developers, whether it's a website or a mobile app or a kiosk someplace, to use that information. So I think about it independent of the end presentation. And I call that, again, people have all kinds of different names for this. I call that an info assembly. Like, that's like the thing that's ready to go to serve the kind of what you think of in a page building environment. Like, this is the page, but I just call it an info assembly. And then so together, I think of all those things as the content element types. And the way I think about them is like they're the Lego pieces that we work with. So that's how I think about it and again, I'm a CMS agnostic content modeler. I just think about these things. I've never actually done a project where I modeled the content before we picked the CMS. I'm almost always actually working towards a specific CMS, but I still keep that separate concern in my head of like a conceptually sound model, to drive this thing, so that if they did change CMSs, the content model could still work. So those are the content element types that we're working with, like at least in my conception of a generic conception of working with content elements in a CMS. And then when you compare that, like those content elements to the design system component elements, and there's, design systems are more complex than, just as content management is more complex in this simple model on the left, design systems are more complex than what I'm about to show you. But generally, I think I've accounted for most of the stuff that goes into a design system. There's content, but there's more than one kind of content in a design system. There's the instance content that populates each instance of that experience or page layout, which is mostly what we're working with in a CMS. There's also UX strings, like the guidance copy, like the calls to action, the error messages, just the copy that guides people through an experience, whether it's a website or a web app or whatever. And there's also documentation, both documentation like for designers about how to use that component or how to build that component and what to do with it, but also documentation of the system itself. So there's a lot of content associated with design systems. The other thing about design systems, and most people think of them probably start thinking of them about this way, they're the visual stuff that's described in a design system, like the layouts themselves, the images, like what you do with pictures and iconography and symbols and things like that. There's also like styling code, like CSS, like, here's how we style things, and here's, maybe design tokens, or, whatever you use to describe that. And then there's the functional code, like the JavaScript and stuff like that. So I argue that these are like apples and oranges, that like they're the intent of a content system is, to be about the content. And the intent of a design system is to facilitate the presentation of like a thing that's really depends on a lot of content, but has other things going on in it as well. Another way I think about that is that when you're working with content in a content management system, ideally you're authoring, managing, sharing the information that's in there as content to a purpose. That like you're thinking about the purpose of the content, like the user need that it's advancing or helping or assisting with, versus a design system is there to like facilitate the building of the experience, to share that. So again, apples and oranges. And then I want to go back and just elaborate a little bit on that, taking those content elements and thinking about how you model them. And then, like I mentioned before, there's like these three kinds of content in the design system. And so I think most of us, like at a conference like this or in any kind of conference where you're working with mostly website content, we're talking about that instance data. I mean, there's some page layout stuff and all that, but it's always designed to like, and here's how we show a page, and here's how we show a post, or here's how we show an event listing. And so most of what we conventionally think about, I think, in content management is around managing that instance data, the instances that come out of the CMS to populate any one design. But there's also those UX strings, and I think even, this is like, again, my recent history bias is my approach to this, because I've done a lot of stuff with like digital product, design, but it also applies equally in a website, like the navigation scheme and the menu choices and all that stuff about how you guide people through the experience with UX strings. And then there's the documentation, when you get into this and modeling documentation for a design system. I've done stuff like, I did a gig at a big social media company where we were modeling content, the documentation of like the design system components, where you need both like comprehensive documentation for somebody who really wants to understand the thing and how it works, but also just like a quick little, like if you're a designer in Figma and just need to do something, you're like, I don't need to read the whole thing, just show me what to do here. So I modeled sort of like, Matthias is, he gave me a sneak peek of a demo he's done, a presentation he's done over lunch, where there's this content approach where you just say, well, just tell me the important stuff. Let's get out of my way and just let me get on with what I need to do. That's sort of the idea with, with the one presentation of that content that I did was sort of the day-to-day reference model content. You'd model okay, I'm a content designer in Figma, or a UX designer, or a front-end engineer. I'm in Figma. I'm looking at this thing like, what do I do with this to work with this component? And that's like a short contextual batch of content. And then you have like the more detailed explanation, and maybe history and versions and release notes or whatever. Anyhow, I've designed like headless CMS backends to do that kind of thing, where you're tailoring that kind of documentation to to either like that instant use case where you're in the product working with it, or to that like reference case where like you're onboarding a new employee and they want to know like, wait a minute, how do toasts work on your website or whatever? They can go in and read and understand the whole background. And then there's the documentation of the whole design system itself. I don't know that anybody ever talks about this, but I've seen documentation. This is stuff that's mostly in people's heads, I think, and largely, kind of company lore, and you just talk about like, this is how we do things here. Some places, so I think some design systems do have like, they're managed like a digital product, and sometimes they even have something like a product manager, a program manager, something like that associated with them, and they will document like, oh yeah, at this juncture we decided to merge these styles or change things, sort of like release notes for the design system itself. So anyhow, long-winded way of saying that there's like all these different things you can do with content in design systems, but it's still a separate thing. That the content management, and the point is showing these three little segments in that small part of the design system, is that I think the role of content, they're inextricably linked, as I think I've shown here, that there's an important connection between them. But like I talked with, do any of you know Knapsack, the design system management? Anyhow, it's like Storyblock or Storybook or there's a whole category of design system managers. Chris Strahl, I had him on he's an old Drupal guy, comes out of the headless CM, the old open source content management world. And he, at that point, this is like 3 or 4 years ago, he was convinced that content systems and design systems would merge. And I just remember even in the moment thinking, I don't know. And then anyhow, so this little deck, and this is the end of it, is sort of my take on what I now perceive what he said as like a provocation to think about like the relationship between design systems and content management systems. So anyhow, that's my thinking on it. I'm just one guy. I would love to hear your takes on that. If any of you have had experience working with design systems, if what I just said makes sense, I'm game for a conversation about this.
Yes, I work with design systems. I think every company should do, because it makes your life so much easier that you have components which you can reuse over and over. And if you do it right and you can style them in different ways, then you can use them for different customers in different branches. So for a shop or whatever. For me, my company is pretty easy because we only do municipalities. So we have all these components for municipalities, and we can reuse it and put a different theme on it for each and every website that we build. But I see advantages with the design system for every company making websites. Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, Patrick, I love that, because I'm missing a whole section in my little deck about the things they do have in common. And it's that componentization, the design for reuse and efficiency and all that. And I think that's where people maybe might start to conflate them, but like a lot of those, the generic benefits of what you just talked about, that almost applies almost exactly equally to design systems and content systems. And I this deck, and I'll credit you with the improvement of the deck. Yeah.
Right. So I was working with like that. Thank you. During like quite some period of time, I was working with different systems and design systems in particular. Let's say such as atomic design approach, etc. So, and I totally agree with you that it simplifies the life massively. First of all, because like even if you're working with one company, it's one thing. But if you are creating the product that is more like software as a service, etc. So it's it actually sets the limits for your clients in a way, but in a way that it also shows them, okay guys, we did the research, we analyzed loads of information, and we, as an expert, provide you with the solution. Which quite often from my experience might be like still people were like, I'm a client, I know better, but the thing is that it's not the case. It's more in majority of the situations, because as a client you go to someone that provides you an expertise, right? If your leg hurts, you do not like, well, you do Google sometimes, but better not to. You normally go to the doctor, right? So, and I think the same approach should be for the IT solutions as well. And design systems are very helpful element of that building of that mindset.
You know, that's something you just said reminded me, and this is another thing I'm going to attribute the Lenny slides to this other improvement to the deck, that like another like commonality that they have is that I don't know, that service thing like that, and but one of the things that arises out of that, like one of the things you just said about yes, sometimes the experts are right and we went to a lot of trouble to build this system, and here you can benefit from it. I've talked to a lot of design system program managers and stuff who spend half their time advocating for adoption, because the way they happen, and I think this is really interesting, and I don't know that this is as much a problem in the CMS world, because I think there's a little more consensus or acceptance of CMS decisions, but a lot of design systems fail because it was like an engineer, a front-end engineer and a designer, and maybe one other person got together and built the system. Hey, you guys, check it out. And everybody's like, that doesn't do what I need. You know, so there's often an adoption and implementation issue with design systems. And again, I think there's some really interesting back and forth here between those two. Yeah, but thank you.
Yeah, I also like design systems. Also like structured content. But one of the things that comes to me, I want slides here too. So I'm pitching.
I should have my notebook open.
I'll pay you afterwards. The thing that I notice is, I mean, editors very often want to edit things as they are seen on the website because it gives them the relationship to where it's placed on the website, stuff like that. Developers are usually the ones that like structured content the most because it's how they think in the database. And design systems in that way can often sort of become the developer way of explaining design, right? It's all components and it's all parts and you can put them together and it makes something new, which isn't what the editor wants. And at the same time, when you're an editor, knowing that, you know, the content you edit is part of a structure, or knowing that the content you edit is going to be shown in different components on different sites and different devices can be useful. And very often, I think, you know, people might lack the understanding as editors or the education as editors about what's actually lying beneath this. Knowing more about it might make them into better editors. But the problem very often comes to where do you draw the line, because it can get really technical and it can be really complex. And you probably need your editors to go a little bit out of their comfort zone in order to actually use this well? And how do you reach that?
Well, I love that there's a whole field that has arisen to help us solve this problem. The role of enterprise user experience. That like most of the UX attention in the CMS world has been to the end user experience, very little to the authoring experience. Although I hope you all know Greg Dunlap's new book. I was pitching it at lunchtime. Greg Dunlap, you may know from the Drupal world. He was with Lullabot for many years. He just wrote a book about the authoring experience, designing what does he call it? Designing authoring experiences. Anyhow, it's a great book. I just talked to him about it. But so there's that part of it. There's that the fact that there is a new discipline that has a whole. Lou Rosenfeld has a new conference, and there's others about enterprise user experience. And so from that context, though, it's like it's sort of a back and forth between. You're right that like. It's our job as the structured nerds, to explain the benefits of that to authors. But that's an uphill battle a lot of the time. A lot of them, they got into writing because it lets them be expressive and creative, and so there's a need to acknowledge that and deal with that. There's a big thing. One of the other things I do is I help organize a conference called Decoupled Days, which came out when Drupal went headless. A bunch of developers were like, great, what do we do now? And that's how that conference started. And one of the huge concerns in that community the last few years has been sort of like what Dean Barker calls the race to the middle. That like there was this, from AEM and Sitecore and monoliths to like completely decoupled jam and mock architectures to like swinging back to like authors going like, I am completely lost at sea here. This is so abstract and so disconnected. So it's like but that span, it's negotiating that span from like authors who want WYSIWYG, page building experiences to like structured nerds like us who want everything reusable and manageable and componentizable and all that, navigating that arc. Go ahead.
I'm hijacking the presentation.
No.
This
is a conversation. This is not a presentation.
Yeah.
In fact, let me sit down. I'll just,
Oh, this got really personal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Now, one concept that I've heard mentioned a lot recently, because I say it a lot, because I heard it a month ago and it's cool. Content ops as a position that sort of bridges these kind of things is an important thing, and also the fact that we very often forget, editors and stuff when we make websites.
What's a funny thing about, not a funny, but an interesting thing about this, a lot of this stuff, like content ops is a relatively newish thing, but they've been doing it for years. Like, I don't know if any of you know the DITA standard, the XML format. It stands for Darwin Information Typing Architecture. It's about what we're talking about right here. It's about structured content authoring. It's writing to topics, and it's very precise. You'd love it. It's precisely structured. It's got semantics built into it. It's like, and this was invented 20 years ago at IBM.
My mouth is watering.
Oh, you would love it. Yeah, but it's. To the problems you were just talking about, like educating authors, like virtually all the people using this are like technical docs people in like places like Cisco and companies where they have like 1,000 products, each of which have 10 or 20 versions, which are supported at varying levels and which have a huge variety of different kinds of users. And DITA is built like, you can structure it like, okay, if you're using version 12.2.1 and you're at the expert level, here's the exact content you need. It's structured to that level. And they have successfully navigated this. They've figured out how to educate authors to do that topic-based authoring, to do that. But to what your current observation about content operations, this has been operationalized for years. The first person I heard really talk a lot about content ops was Rahel Bailey, who comes out of that technical content world. And it's, Rahel's a friend, and Nazir Bina and Cruz Saunders. There's a bunch of these old school DITA people who've been doing this for 20 years. And they just look at like all this stuff that we're figuring out now and go, you guys, we figured this out 20 years ago. Just do what we're doing. So I don't say we should do that, because there's definitely issues with it. Like, try to sell XML to a modern developer. They just want JSON, or Markdown. So that's a challenge. But anyhow, so content ops is I think it's as a popularly understood and expressed thing is only a few years old, but it's been around for years, you know, and the reason it's been there is because the DITA thing, it was headless from the beginning. They've always been very clear about the distinction between authoring, management, templating, and distribution. You know, that's always been a clear separation of concerns for them, and they had to manage these complex authoring operations. So they've had content ops for a while.
So I meant to say as well, so there's something that you said earlier about, so if we go down to the specifics of the content, because like indeed, you were talking about like for the editors stepping outside of their comfort zone, but I think that we keep forgetting one thing, that's like, you know, I guess like new people who are coming into the CMS world, right, they are probably know about like molecular design more than you and I do, as a matter of fact. So it's like something that is being default comparing to I don't know, 5 years ago or 10 years ago, right? So I think that's like we should keep that in mind. Of course, like once again, if we're talking, it depends really on the specifics of the website or the specific of the product or whatever, because like if we're talking about the, I don't know, simple website that is selling I don't know, tours, for instance, that's one thing. And if we're talking about like I don't know, internal site of Cisco, right? So there will be an absolutely different level of the data and the granularity of it, etc. So therefore, the specifics of the entering those data and like displaying those data will be different as well. And actually, that how tech savvy is a user. So, yeah, just my 5 cents.
Yeah, no, and you're getting it like, I've actually met the guys who invented DITA, and they thought all this stuff through like that. That part of what you were just talking about is that all those concerns you just mentioned are, I don't know that they were all addressed right from the start, but like they've considered all those things, and there's ways, I don't know, I've never, it's funny, they're all friends, everybody in that world. I've never actually worked with DITA or built a DITA content system. I've always done like headless CMSs or bespoke systems. Yeah. But intellectually, I'm the same way that Matthias was just like, yeah, sign me up, where can I go? You know, I've been the same way, and I've been trying to get into it for years, but it just hasn't worked out, so, yeah.
No, don't get me wrong, I love the structure in the data, but also like me being a non-tech person and a delivery manager, project manager, I also know about like how sometimes techie guys tend to overcomplicate things. I'm not pointing fingers here, but well, you know, that happens sometimes.
Well, that, I mean, where does that complication come from, do you think?
Making it's like desire to make things perfect.
Yeah.
And like project managers, like we live by the rule better done than perfect. So, you know, that's where the mismatch comes from.
That's like, you know, from like people like me and Matthias who are just like, oh, like we're just striving for perfect structure all the time, and then the move fast and break things, agile front end people, and somewhere in between that is like maybe not everybody's comfort zone, but it's probably the productivity zone.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Let's make a CMS that kills editors and developers at the same time.
There's scorched earth CMS. Yeah. I can picture the homepage like just yeah.
Does everybody understand the terms which are used here? Because things like atomic design and stuff comes by, and does everybody understand what we are talking about here? Or okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's an interesting one. I think Brad Frost's Atomic Design, that's kind of the arguably, there's a couple of other books, I'm forgetting her name, really brilliant woman wrote that hardcover book about, and then, anyhow, there's 3 or 4 good books out there, each of which comes from like a different metaphorical place. Like Brad Frost uses the atomic thing, and that analogy, if you follow that book and follow his approach, it falls apart pretty quickly.
I think developers also like, you know, to dive into the technical thing. You know, if you're fine with the Copenhagen version of which we call it molecular design. Somebody's going to come tomorrow with the string version, right?
Yeah.
You're missing the atoms.
Yeah. Say that again. What did you say, Lenny?
What's an atom? What's an organism?
Yeah. No, that's funny. I actually have a spreadsheet where I've attempted to fix the, and it goes from like atoms to ecosystems. It's done.
You use a spreadsheet? You can use
I don't know about your worlds, but my worlds of design and content, it's like everything happens in spreadsheets. It's just pathetic. We can't build apps to save our lives. Yeah. Does anybody curious about the ontological thinking stuff? How are we on time?
Oh, we still have time left.
Okay, that's a little quick.
Until half, so we still have 15 minutes.
15 minutes?
Yeah, something like that.
Would you like me to do a quick run through that slide deck? Because I know a lot of people had expressed interest in that. Let me fire that one up. Because this, I think, and I think it's interesting. I wasn't sure which order. I've never done these two together before. So I wasn't sure which order might make the most sense, but sorry.
We will tell you you're all wrong when you're finished. Glad to see you have a thank you slide.
Actually, I was missing a little bit about the design system. You were talking about JavaScript and CSS3 and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. What I'm missing in there is accessibility, because a design system helps you as well to keep everything accessible. Because you only have to fix it in one place, and it's done over all your websites which are using this design system.
More slides, thank you. Because
you're welcome.
You're exactly right. No, because if you think about the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, designers and content people should be reading them with the same intensity and curiosity. 100% agree. And I think that consistency and efficiency that you get from any kind of system, a content management system or a design system, it's funny. I think the reason I don't think about it is because it's just, to me, a built-in benefit. That when you do it, I naively have this assumption that like, everybody's going to care about that and build systems that do that, and they don't. But
no, they don't.
Yeah, so I should consult you before I ship anything. Yeah.
You're welcome.
So anyhow, I'll just go through this pretty quickly. This is, like I said, I've been doing content modeling for many years, and about the last 5 years, I've really immersed myself in the world of ontology engineering and ontology design. It comes out of the semantic web. Let's see, can I make the bigger? There we go. So I'll just, the first thing about this is you guys are already we're all doing this all the time already. Ontology is this to how you understand the world. We all have mental models and schemes that we use to think about how we think about the world. So everybody's doing it already. I'll talk really quickly about how that leads to a mindset. And then I want to kind of get to the slides about the ontology practice and how ontologists work. And then a little bit about semantics, people, and languages, which is like, that's like a PhD curriculum. That's 7 years of full-time study. We'll do it in one slide. So in ontology, several people have asked me about this just today. It's just the simplest definition is that it's a set of concepts in a domain, what their properties are, and the relationships between them. I'll elaborate on this in a minute, but it's all about the power of an ontology in a technical setting. This comes out of philosophy, but in a technical setting, the real power of it is the ability to express knowledge about a domain in a way that both humans and computers can understand. That's why it's important. And thinking is just like an approach, like how you think about something. So first thing I'll say is you're already doing it. Like if you've ever done in any of your projects like stakeholder ecosystem mapping, or if you've designed the UX architecture for a product or something like a CMS front end or something like that, or probably more germane to folks here, like if you've done any content modeling, all of these things are just attempts to understand what's in the domain you're operating in, how are they connected, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what exactly are they. And content operations. I forgot that this was even in here. Yeah, because this is a slide from a talk I did for some content people. So ontological thinking is simply that notion of taking that ontological understanding of a domain, shifting your thinking a little bit to your mindset and just having ontological thinking or a mindset about how to approach it. Now this is how professional ontologists think. There's a lot going on in this slide, but basically somebody who's designing like, you know, the LinkedIn economic graph or Google's knowledge graph or Amazon's product graph, there's a whole bunch of implemented ontologically driven applications out there that work with this stuff. There's both a top-down component to it where you have like the knowledge of and curiosity about and your perspective on the domain you're operating in. That's sort of the globe thingy. Then you have like sort of a plan, a strategy to address that domain. And then you have your current way of organizing things in that domain, like bunch of, like at Amazon, it's a fireable offense to have a relational database. So they're all NoSQL databases. But you might have, most people have SQL relational databases. So, you know, there's all kinds of different ways you can organize things. That's the top of this diagram. The bottom of the diagram is instances of all the stuff you deal with. Like both the concepts that you're dealing with and the words about them. There's a lot more to this than that. And anyhow, that culminates in the middle in this model of that domain. Like we're talking about, okay, we do typo 3 event organizing. We have attendees, we have a venue, we have a date, we have you know, meals and sponsors and, you know, whatever that is. So those are all the dots in that diagram. One thing I want to talk about, like the focus on the domain is really crucial to an ontology because it's your understanding of any thing is constrained by the limits of that domain. Like in the typo 3 world, we might not be concerned about like restaurant menu choices or, you know, something like that. So you want to think about the whole world, your focus on it, and how it applies in your organization. So like I have a friend works for a company that does a travel thing, and then they wanted to do something about frequent travelers, and they live in Australia, so they do Australian frequent flyer. You know, it's a website publication thing. I live near Amsterdam, and there's a doggy day spa there called Reino Canino. Like you go from like pets to dogs and cats. No, I really like dogs. I like the fluffy, fancy dogs. I'm just going to treat my dog like a king. So, so anyhow, that's how you scope the domain. Is you really, and for any one business, that's theoretically relatively easy to do. It's when you actually get people around a table and try to agree on it, it can be more difficult. But generally a domain like a travel company is concerned with travel and that kind of thing. One thing I want to talk about, once you've got these things organized, you know, you have like this is just a random example. You have a domain that has people and companies and locations and things called, you know, functional business units and you know, like a unique business identifier for a place. Once you've identified these things and started to connect them, you can say like, oh, this person lives in this city and that city's located in that state, which is part of that country. So you can infer that like somebody living in Utrecht lives in the Netherlands. That's a safe thing to say. And then you can do more connections and connect things, you know, to show how other things in the domain connect. I think you probably, how many of you have done this kind of thing like entity relationship diagramming or, you know, ecosystem mapping? There's a whole bunch of practices that do this kind of thing. One thing I want to point out here is that the need for like precision or at least clarity as you're developing ontologies is like it's tempting to think that if you know a person who lives in Amsterdam and they work for KLM, that like they probably work at HQ because they have, but what if they're a baggage handler who lives in Amsterdam and works in Schiphol? You know, that's like, yeah, so you got to be careful with inference. That's just a quick thing about that. The other thing about once you're in a domain and you have like, I'm just going to use the example of like a recipe in a food domain thing, then you kind of seize out, and this is something, again, if you've done like ERD work or things like that, by sorting out all those properties and the attributes of them in a domain, you can do further inference. There's a whole bunch to this, but since we're short on time, I'll just skip right through it. But basically, once you have like a domain model, like you have a recipe that uses this cooking technique to prepare this dish, and this dish includes these things, and if you have, it's from this cuisine and from that region, and you go like, hey, I want Asian food. Do you want Thai or Japanese? You can kind of use this kind of understanding of a domain to figure that out. The other thing you can do with this is like, if you know that a person has an allergy to an ingredient, you could have a system that says you shouldn't order this dish, because you know the ingredient, that they're allergic to that ingredient in it. That's just one example. Back to I harp on this because the capability of this kind of an ontological understanding of a domain permits that kind of inference that we can do, in our heads, but you can also encode this for a computer so that they can do it. And this kind of gets at, like, when I talk about an ontology and ontological thinking, an ontology is like at the far right of this diagram. There's this whole spectrum of semantic stuff you can do. And you've probably done this in CMS work. Everybody knows the feeling of going from like a pile of like folksonomy tagged blog posts to like organizing them in some way and just putting them in a list. And then you define them and you get a glossary, so you have even more calmness about what you're dealing with. Then you organize topics into like a taxonomy. And then you have like maybe a thesaurus, because some of the terms you use to describe them are similar. And then this culminates in, like, if you stitch it all together with it's not like each of these things are a part of an ontology, but they all kind of, it's just a way to show that it's not like ontology or nothing. Like, in fact, I have a friend, Jessica Talisman. She's like the lead ontologist at Adobe, who barely uses ontologies. She just uses like really good taxonomies and thesauri expressed in RDF, in a W3C standard called SCOS, to do cool stuff. So anyhow, so just be aware that there's a spectrum. It's sometimes expressed like this, and the reason that goes up and to the right is that it shows the relative, like, kind of power and expressivity you get from going from just a simple list of words to a full-blown ontology. There's a whole lot more to this than that, but I just want to point out that the benefit of thinking ontologically, even if you don't do like a full-blown knowledge graph, which is the typical way this is usually done, just thinking this way and being aware that you're on this spectrum of meaning can help you make better decisions about how to organize stuff. I just had to show this. A buddy of mine, one of the other ways to show this is like this diagram on the left, and my buddy Aaron pointed out, oh my God, Larry, it's coming right at us. It's like, yeah, anyhow, Aaron's a fun guy. But the main thing, and this is, I don't know how much this comes up in your worlds, but I've been doing this stuff for a long time. And it always, we think it's about technology and tooling and all this stuff, the RCMS is the thing that's going to fix your life, or we think about, it's process. If we just manage these processes better, and this gets into like content operations. If we had the perfect content operations manager, life would be perfect. But we all know that most of this stuff is about people and how people think about things and do things and behave and blah, blah, blah. So it's really, the application of ontological thinking is mostly like a leadership thing. It's like this understanding of like that there are different ways of understanding the world and how you do it and all that is like, it's like the main application of that. Yeah, you can do it in code and you can do cool stuff with management around it, but it's really about working better with people. So when I say, like you are here in a leadership role, whether you want to be or not, as soon as you start thinking about this way of this, ontology is fundamentally about ascribing meaning to and agreeing on what things mean in a domain, and so you can really lead the way on that. I hope we're on time, because if we have a second to linger on, this is my favorite meme ever. This is like all I'm going to say about language. Like so much of this is about aligning human beings on language and what we're going to say about things. And this is, I don't know if you can see it, but this is a guy at the seashore pounding nails into the sand. And that little liminal zone where the waves are lapping at the nails, that's language. The sea is the inherently indescribable nature of the universe. And we're just the dumb little people who just pounding nails in the sand. So this is hard work. That's the main point I want to make there. And so there's a few principles you can take home from this. One is like, with this kind of thinking in mind, all you can do is all you can do. You know, being aware that, like, just apropos of that last slide, this is hard stuff, and you're not going to figure everything out. As everybody knows who's ever run any kind of project involving human beings, it's not going to go perfect. You're never going to get everything right. You're not going to figure everything out. But the best you can do is try to do your best to discern how others are thinking about things, project your understanding of that back on them, get a conversation going, try to figure out what's going on, and then lead by example. Just kind of keep that little loop going. The other thing you can do is, a lot of knowledge is in people's heads, and you want to do what you can to tease that out and ensconce that in, like, whether you just write it down in a spreadsheet or a piece of paper, or ensconce it in some kind of a system. It's hard to, this is like a whole field of knowledge management, but basically the signals to know when you should be trying to do something about this, like if somebody says, well, everybody knows, we just do it this way, that's your radar should, you know, jump up at that point. Or you just ask Juliet, she knows that thing, you know.
She was there yesterday.
Oh, was she? Oh, okay. So shoot, she's gone. Now, see, now the knowledge is gone. We can't do anything with it. My point. And then the classic thing, at least among ontologists, is like, oh, we know what a customer is. And in fact, every organization has like 10 different ways of thinking about what a customer is. The other thing is, if you've ever heard about Google's knowledge graph, they're the ones who kind of popularized this notion of knowledge representation as a way to help people find stuff, basically. They've kind of gone from, like, most of the stuff I've talked about, like an ontological understanding is about understanding the concept, the core thing, like that chair, you know, like the fact that that's a chair. You might call it a silla in Espanol, and you might call it something else in, you know, in Dutch. I forget that. I'm horrible. One of those horrible English speakers who hasn't learned Dutch yet. But the chair hasn't changed, but the language around it might. So that notion of the thing itself, not the string, the notion of the thing itself over the string that describes it as being the crucial thing that you're thinking about. That's probably the most important thing you can take from ontological thinking. And the last thing is, like, this is a moving target. You know, when you think about knowledge, oh, we know all about diseases. Oops, COVID. And then, software, you just shrink wrap it and you go to the store and buy this software thing. No, and cloud computing disrupts all that. Mobile phones and responsive web design, you know, like this stuff's all changing. So anyhow, to summarize those, just kind of lead by example, always thinking about how you can make the tacit explicit, think things, not strings, and realize that it's a moving target. So that's probably the fastest I've ever done that presentation. I hope that was helpful. Thanks. How are we on time? I probably went over. Any questions about that, or any? Yeah, I know that's a lot, and I've been immersed in it for 5 years, and that's my best attempt at, like, yeah, exactly. And if anybody wants to follow up and chat about it, I'm very happy to do that. Thanks all. Thanks.
Hannes, please join me on stage. I put your name on the slides. Wir switchen?
Ja.
Too late.
Oh. Jetzt hab ich beide.
Oh, okay. Guess I can start, right? Yeah, you can start. All right. Hello and welcome to my small session, including a live demo, because I'm a lunatic, about the core web vitals, which are essential metrics for a healthy website, developed by Google. I'm gonna show you the basics of those 3 metrics, how they work, how you can measure them, why they are important, and if you have any questions, I think we will have some time left for them at the end. So let's get started. First of all, despite all the jokes we made, my name is not Mirna, my name is Hannes. I work at Midwald. I love website performance, I love security-related stuff, and some of you might have noticed yesterday evening that I also love Scotch. That should be enough about me, despite I used to have hair. That's some time ago now. I was educated on computers first by the age of 3, starting with a Commodore 64, as you can see on this picture. I've been working with web technologies for more than 20 years now, I think. I had a talk last year about everything I learned about website performance during those 20 years. But this year we are focusing on today and maybe a little bit on the future. So let's get started. We have 3 core web vitals that are the metrics that you can use to measure both the performance of your website as well as in some regards, the user experience. This is the slide I would have shown last year. This year we switch it out because we have a new core web vital, which is the INP. The other 2 are LCP and CLS, and I'm going to dive into those now step by step. There are a lot more so-called web vital metrics. You might know TTFB, time to first byte. They are included in the other core metric that I'm going to show you now, but there are like 20 of them. If you want to measure every single aspect of the performance of your website, you could do so, but that would take much more time than one session. So we're going to focus on the core web vitals. First of all, we've got the LCP, which stands for largest contentful paint, and is a pretty simple metric in what it is measuring, because it marks the point in the page load time when the page's main content has likely loaded. This is a core web vital because for a user it is very important to see content, and more precisely relevant content. And it's very hard to determine what is relevant to the user. So the LCP simply says the biggest element on the website, that's important. How long does it take until it is shown to the user after he opens the website? I chose an example of a site you might have seen in the last days. This is a website of the camp. I'm going to go into detail into the measuring tools that are open here. But what is most important, this LCP is measured in seconds. In this case, 0.24 seconds. And you can, simply by hovering over it, see what is the element that is the LCP on this particular website. So we have the picture behind the headline, and this whole element is the largest contentful paint. So the biggest element on the viewport that has some sort of relevant content, and it takes about a quarter second until it is loaded, which is a very good value for the LCP. In general, the campsite is very good. It has a very high performance score, but it also has some optimization possibilities. Is someone here who made the website? No? Okay. Whew. Great. We're going to have a look at it anyway. But more to that later. So I can skip the demo because I've showed you the website. So we come to the second relevant metric, which is the CLS, Cumulative Layout Shift. This is not a performance metric in the sense of how fast is a website. This is, for me, the most important metric because it describes how freaking annoying a website is. Basically, exactly this. The CLS is a measure of the largest burst of layout shift scores for every unexpected layout shift that occurs during the lifespan of a page. First explanation, the lifespan of a page is simply the time a user spends on the website. So we have more questions to answer. For example, what the hell is a layout shift score? In this case, it's not measured in seconds or whatever. It is actually just the value. You need someone like Reider who has studied mathematics to get this formula. It is layout shift score equals impact fraction times distance fraction. What is an impact fraction? What is a distance fraction? That's pretty simple. We have a mobile phone in this case with one content element. It's just text, and it takes up around 50% of the viewport. Now, imagine this element shifts down 25% of the viewport. Pretty annoying. You can see this all the time with AdWords or other things that, let's say, for example, news websites, especially on the mobile phone, want you to click on and thereby changing the layout without you touching anything. In this case, the impact fraction, 75% of the whole viewport. That's the affected area, including the original placement of the element and the placement after it has shifted. So this equals to a score of 0.75. We have a distance fraction of 25%, 0.25. And if you multiply them, you get 0.1875. This is a very bad CLS. It would be marked red if you check it with many different tools that I'm going to show you later, because it is very annoying for the user. Without clicking anything, you shift the content, sucks. The second thing you have to know is that it is measured continuously, because at any point in the lifespan of the website, content might be shifted. It's not only the initial loading time and the few seconds thereafter, because a user might stay on the site for maybe a minute. And to give you a good impression of where you should do optimization regarding CLS, this lifespan is cut into pieces, into so-called session windows, which last 5 seconds, and they do have a gap of 1 second at the end. So 5 seconds where in the last second nothing happens. And of all those session windows, the CLS only describes the worst one. So if you shift your content using JavaScript multiple times over the lifespan, you only get reported with the worst value, because that's where you first have to take action. The next thing is unexpected. As I said, it's the largest burst of layout shifts in the session window. The scores regarding to that showed those, and it's only for unexpected layout shifts. An expected layout shift happens when you click somewhere, because maybe you've got an accordion or whatever, or you've got, let's say, FAQs where you only see the question, then you click on it and you get the answer. That is not unexpected. The user interacts with the website, so it's totally fine to shift the layout in this case. But this should not be taken as, okay, whenever a user clicks somewhere, I might change everything, first of all. Second of all, and this is a very bad animation, you only have 500 milliseconds to shift anything you want to do after a user clicks. Otherwise, it's unexpected. If I click on a button and for a second nothing happens, and then suddenly new content shows up, that's not expected. That's bad behavior, therefore you get punished at your CLS score. I do have a small demo for this, I guess. Let's see if it works. It does work. And this is pretty much what you should not do. So the user goes to your site the user enters your site, and after, I think, 2 seconds or whatever, you insert some random placement, advertisement, whatever. To all the non-German speaking people, I did not change this demo site. The text says, really annoying advertisement that really annoys us. So this is something you should avoid at all costs. People tend to do this to make you click somewhere where you usually wouldn't click, especially in advertisement, but you will get punished for this anyway. So don't do it. Most users, I would say, just close the website. If you, for example, had an unexpected layout shift, you clicked on the advertisement by mistake, I will instantly just go back, close the tab, whatever. So that's CLS. The next one, and the last one of the core web vitals that I want to explain is INP, interaction to next paint. Last year it would have been FID, first input delay. The first input delay describes the time that it takes after a user interacts until the browser starts working on the task it has to perform to do so. Usually this is very slow if you have too much JavaScript, blocking JavaScript, whatever. And the INP is more precise. It describes the time that it takes between an interaction, usually a click, tap, whatever, you interact with the site. And the latency it takes until the action is finished. Not started, but finished. So for example, pretty sure I've got a demo for this. This is a very basic example of what an INP can be. I've got a button, I click on it, and it takes around a second until something happens. This metric also reports only the worst INP. So if a user takes like 3 actions, one takes 500 milliseconds, one 2 seconds, one 10 seconds, 10 seconds will be reported because that's where you have to work on first. We can, this is so annoying. We can measure all of these web vitals or core web vitals using browser tools. The usual dev tools of every browser can show you those values, I guess. Pretty sure Firefox can. Don't know about Edge because who uses Edge? My personal favorite is Chrome, despite all the bad things that Google might be doing, because it has a very clean integration of different tools to measure performance. You can simply open the dev tools, F12 or Control-Shift-I, and go to the performance tab, and you get all those values live for the current website you are on. So if I press this button and I reset the INP, the last one was around 1.5 seconds, and I do it again. This value switched because it took even longer, 1.6 seconds. Let's see if we get a, yeah, that was faster, so my INP did not change because the worst value counts. For anyone who's interested in it, in the background, this button triggers a script, which, a JavaScript, which calculates pi by 75 million iterations or something. So the time it takes varies based on your computer, on your current load and whatever. So it's a bit going into, this is a realistic environment because the computers of your users also won't be in idle mode when you're surfing. Worst case would be antivirus program is scanning the whole PC or whatever. And you should keep that in mind when measuring any performance metric, because the device you use to measure has an impact on your results. And that's always the case. Doesn't matter if you use a local computer like I do here, or if you deploy any of those tools to a server, because you always have some sort of load going on, and that will impact your results while measuring these metrics. Let's see if I have more slides. Yes, I do. Tools. So, the first tool that I already showed you were the dev tools of Chromium. You can use a different browser. The second one, most likely known among you, Lighthouse. Who has never heard of Lighthouse? Okay, we can skip 5 minutes. PageSpeed Insights. Who has never heard of PageSpeed Insights? Great. Whose customers argue with the PageSpeed Insight score? Like, I do want to have 100 in the PageSpeed Insight score. Okay. What's your approach on it? How do you handle those customers?
I don't.
Okay. That's the best way.
But not my problem.
Yeah, okay. PageSpeed Insights uses Lighthouse in the background, and Lighthouse gives you an overall score. If we have the time, we could take a look into it. The problem is, especially with PageSpeed Insights, you do not know on which machine the test is performed. You also don't know where this machine is located. Maybe Google checks the site from their data center in US East, or maybe in one in Europe, or whatever. It might be random. You have got no impact on all the different parts of your test environment if you're using PageSpeed Insights. Now, if you use Lighthouse yourself, you do have impact at least on some of the factors. You can make sure that on the machine you're running nothing else is running. You have somewhat impact on your network connection. What you should not do, if you want to have a consistent test running, use Wi-Fi like I do now, because that's the worst part you can do on your local network is using Wi-Fi. Use a cable connection, it's more stable. As soon as the connection leaves the building, you're out of impact, so your provider for internet has some impact, then routing, carriers in between, where is the site hosted, and so on. So this is something that you will always have to keep in mind while testing, especially when you automate it. And PageSpeed Insights is the worst choice. Who knows Crooks? One, nice. Okay, let's spend time with Crooks for 2 reasons. First of all, I love it. Second of all, they made some changes in the last months that are pretty nice. So, Crooks, which means Chrome User Experience Reports. In case you use Chrome like I do, usually your browser will send data to Chrome about every 10th, or I don't know, I don't really remember, page you visit, and it will send the performance metrics, and you can simply look at them. We need a website. I'm gonna use the German version of, no, I'm not gonna use the German, we use mit.de. The problem is, you only get this data if you have enough visitors. Sadly, Camp Venlo.nl did not have enough visitors to be in the Crux report. But basically, if you have a couple of thousands each month, you will get those data. And you can scrape it for any website possible. And what you get is real user data, not any Lighthouse test you did on your own. It's just what real users, asterisk, Chrome users, experience on your website regarding all those core web vitals. For example, in the desktop segment, we have a very good LCP of 98% of the users, so that's nice. Mobile, we should do a little bit because we are not very on point with that. And same goes with the other values. And you can dive even deeper into them. For example, I'm not sure how long this takes, you've got the values for each and every month. And you might use this data after you do a relaunch, or you roll out some changes and see what happens with your real users. Because none of your automated local tests or whatever will ever tell you the whole story. Because your users are traveling by train in Germany, so they will have really, really bad internet. Or if you've got an international site, whom of you has got an iPhone? Who has an Android phone that is worth more than $200? Euros? Who has a phone that's cheaper? The average mobile device is way below $150 worldwide. And if you have an international audience, you will have to deal with very slow mobile devices. And most of the time when you would now develop a website and you will test it on your own mobile phone, you will not be in an environment that represents your users. So this is where you can use real user data. And Crooks is just one way to get those. There is another really nice feature, which I have to look for where the link was. Just searches. There's a visualization, you know what I want to say, for all these data. We can use web.dev for this, just to get an impression. This is based on the same data, but you get a nice visualization. Do you know the word I want to say? I definitely not able to handle this now. Over time, and many more details where you could dive deeper. For example, if you go to explore loading time, you can say, I'm only interested in desktop devices in this time period. It always takes the 75th percentile because outliers shouldn't really matter. But you get a pretty good overview of what's really happening with your website. Of course, there are other things you could do. If you do not want to rely on Crooks data, or if your website has most likely Firefox users or whatever. And the answer to all this is, of course, alcohol. No, it's real user monitoring. All this data on how long did it take for the largest content font paint to be ready and so on are exposed by the browser through an API. So you can take a very small JavaScript, for example, the Web Vitals JavaScript from Google, that should not really impact your website's performance, and it is pretty easy to use because it has just a few functions for the metrics, and you have to define an endpoint because you have to send all this JSON somewhere, but then you get your real user data. Take GDPR into account. Most likely, I'm not a legal person, but you will have to have the user's agreement to get those data. So all I can tell you is it's possible to get it. If you want to get it, that's how you can do it. I can show you a simple script that I've got somewhere. I think I have a snippet for it that basically shows what's happening. That's a bit small. Basically, what you can do is ask the Performance Observer API for all this data. I'm going to run the script so you can get. I'm running a script for the INP. We should do it on the INP. Let's show run. And if I simulate another INP, in this case, it's simply going to the console. This is the data that you get. You get the actual timing of the interaction that happened. In this case, 0.38 seconds. And the worst INP, we remember 1.6 something seconds we had when I showed it the first time. And this is the data that you get. So you can see for every user the real data regarding the INP that he has while visiting your website. So there are tools that give you everything you basically need to monitor what's happening on your website. The easy ones, the built-in ones, I think every one of you said you know Lighthouse, so you can run Lighthouse test, for example, in Chrome. But what I like to use more often is actually the performance tab. Who knows this view? Because it's pretty new, like 2 months or so. And you can do a lot more with it. For example, you can set environment settings while surfing on the website. So, for example, I'm standing here at a pretty good Wi-Fi with a pretty okay-ish notebook. Let's slow that down. ×4. And let's say I am sitting in a train in Germany. It's 3G. So, what you might have noticed in the top bar, you get an exclamation mark that tells you you have got throttling on. Be aware. It's only active for the current tab, I think. But now we could try and see what happens if I reload this page, because it should get pretty slow. Still loading. That's basically just because of the slow 3G network. I think this preset of slow 3G or 3G has an included round trip time of 500 milliseconds or so. So that really slows down your website. And in this case, you can see the LCP, which was okay before, I guess, is up to 9 seconds. So how much time do I have left? 80 minutes? Great. Let's do some live analysis. So I already showed the LCP. You can simply hover over the element and it highlights it for you, or you can jump into the HTML that you got. Luckily, there is no layout shift on this website. If you click somewhere, you might get a value of 0 milliseconds or 1 or 2 milliseconds simply because you did a click, but that's totally fine. And I can see on the interaction to explain, this is, I guess, what happened when I clicked a little bit there. It doesn't really matter in this case because you do not trigger an action, you simply click somewhere on the website. Yes?
So on the first element, can you please go back, and you have the image, the background image?
Yes.
Where you can get better performance, but it is also in the statistics that you have maybe 5 style sheets that makes it rendering, and also that you see the combination, or how you improve this element?
Yes. So let me have a quick look where the button for this was. I think you have to use Lighthouse for it. Oh no, wait. You can, that's even better. You can start a recording for a website. I'm going to do this with a simple page reload. Now a profiling is running, and that will give you the information that you should not have kept the slowdown for the web connection because that's real user data with a slowdown network. Yeah, we have to wait until loading has finished. Screw it, we're gonna stop the profiling. Otherwise it would take way too long to load this data. I think I have to make it a little bit smaller. What you get is not only the, you might know the network tree, when did it start to download a file and whatever. This also has like how long did this JavaScript run, how long was it blocking something else, and if you want to know more about the LCP, then you do have the value at the bottom, and you can see, okay, this is the LCP element, and if you click on it, you get way more information on why this was slow. For example, content downloading was around 5, I don't know if you can see it. Content download was around 5 seconds. So the easy answer in this case would be, let's minimize the size of this file. Use a better format, WebP, AVIF, whatever. Because you cannot influence the network connection of the end user, right? But you also have other things, for example, request, send, and waiting. In this case, you might end up, let me see if we get it here. This is a good indicator. The priority changed from low to high. Are you familiar with the priority setting that you can use for assets? Okay, you can pretty much take any asset like an image, and you can set preload so that the file gets loaded when the browser has discovered the whole HTML. So this is something you might want to do for your, if your LCP is a picture element, you might want to do this. Load it as soon as possible, so even if the browser does not know where to put it, he has already downloaded the file. The other thing is the priority. Who works with the priority while loading assets? Anyone? Okay, I have no code example at hand, but pretty much what you can do is you can tell the browser if the fetching priority of an asset should be low, middle, or high. Standard is low, and if you put it on high, the browser will load it before all others with a priority of low. In this case, the priority changed from low to high. And this is what the browser does if the browser thinks this should have a higher loading priority, because maybe I think it's going to be the LCP, so I'm going to load it first. But it's heuristic, it's just like a good guess of your browser to do so. So you should handle this by yourself to get better results. Just one quick thing, I'm going to definitely move the throttling. No, that's a no. We talked about the PageSpeed Insight score, which is simply the Lighthouse score, and the website of the webcam has a very good score of 98. It has very good metrics, it has a very fast, largest contentful paint, it has no CLS, it basically has no INP, but you could still do optimization. In this case, pretty important one, because there are some images that are way too big. The start, yeah? You agree?
I agree.
Great. So on the homepage, there are a couple of speaker pictures, and they are overall around 1 megabyte or something, and we could save 80% of it or something. So this is something that if you simply do your Lighthouse test or your PageSpeed Insights test, you might not catch, because even with the mobile setting, the network connection was not slow enough to have an impact in this case. But with we have seen it with my Deutsche Bahn setting, it was very slow. And this is pretty easy to change. Just convert the pictures to WebP, AVIF, or whatever. So even though your score looks okay, or great in this case, you might have problems that you don't see because you're not testing it right. And then again, crux or other ways of real user monitoring steps in. Because you will see like 10% of our users, or maybe even 20, have a high LCP. Why is that? Yeah, because we come here by train, and a lot of people come from Germany. And if they visit the page, shit hits the fan. So what I would like to for you to do when you use those metrics is think about how you test and why you test it and what you might not catch if you are simply running lab data, which is tested on your own device, tested in a cluster setup or whatever. Use field data if you have it, and most of the time you will have at least crux data, which is pretty good to get a feeling of how real users see your website. Because when you're surfing on your own website, you might not recognize that it's slower than before, maybe just half a second. Maybe you don't realize it, but the field data will tell you it is getting slower. So you have to take action. And this particular case, you could have built a great website, and then the editor comes, uploads some pictures. If you do not convert them automatically into a better format, you will have a slow website, and you changed nothing on your code base. So keep that in mind. If you're interested, this the graph shows the weight of each and every metric that is used to calculate this lighthouse score. And from time to time, I hear, yeah, well, we had a great score of 95, and now it dropped to 70. The servers have to be slower now. Turns out, Google wants to optimize measuring website performance all the time. So they changed the metrics in Lighthouse, and I have to quickly search for the right link. It's this one, the scoring calculator. And you can see in the last 3 versions, I'm going to make it a little bigger, V10 to V12, they have been the same. But in version 8 and 9 of Lighthouse, which is the basis both for the DevTools in Chrome as well as PageSpeed Insights, they changed the weight of certain metrics. And even maybe they completely deleted metrics from the total score. I'm not sure. Yeah, something got deleted, which was most likely FID. No. Did anyone see which value we lost? TTI? TTI, time to interactive, yeah. They most likely dropped TTI because it's not really relevant anymore if you measure IMP. So TTI, time to interactive, measures the time that it takes the browser to become ready to get user input after loading the website. So if my calculation of pi over 75 million iterations starts right when you open the website, you will not be able to interact with the website for like 2 seconds. Any click will be doing nothing because the main thread of the browser is still working on calculating pi. They dropped it because IMP is better. And what you might also see, there is no INP in this. Simply because you cannot measure INP in a lab environment. Because a user has to click on something. And when the user clicks is very crucial for what IMP you will get afterwards. For example, the blocking pi calculation runs for 2 seconds. If the user clicks right on front, he has to wait 2 seconds until his action will be performed. If he clicks somewhere on the side after 3 seconds, it will be fast. You will have a good IMP. So you cannot measure this in the lab unless you will say, okay, it's important for me that a user that clicks somewhere after 1 second of loading the website, then it should be fine, yada, 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 and then you can measure IMP, but it will never be what your real user experience. So it is not calculated in the score. Again, field data, much better than lab data. We have 5 more minutes, I guess. Okay, that's basically everything I wanted to show you, and now we can have some questions, if you have any. No?
Thank you. Do you have a software as a service where I can see my history of performance for my website? because it's now every time real time and I have to write it down or something like this, that I see how the performance going up?
You can use crooks because it is history. If you're interested in the... you can use the...
I think I don't have enough traffic for this.
Okay, then you would have... if you want to have real user data, you would have to implement a JavaScript that sends it somewhere for you.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, you won't get the data because the browser has this API, but if you don't fetch the data from it and send it somewhere, it's
I
just
was
lost.
thinking about a service where I can say, here's my page, and it's monitored on performance.
There are definitely many services offering this. Most likely, every big monitoring service that does uptime monitoring anyway for you, if it's based on your website.
Okay.
I think every single one will also at least measure the core web vitals. Maybe they won't dig deeper into it, but then again, keep in mind, you won't have INP. Because no user interaction, no data. So if it's really important for you, then I would rather find a way to track real user data than relying on some service that just does an HTTP request, starts up a Chromium in the background, loads the site, puts it to Lighthouse.
Okay, thank you.
More questions? Then we're done. Thank you very much.
Yes, before everybody has already left and we are just standing here with 3 people, I think it's good to have just a very short final word. For the people who will be here, thank you very much for staying till the end, and all for the presentators today. Thank you very much for your sharing, inspiration and valid discussions over here. I would like to thank you all for this participation. I wish you all a good trip home. I hope not too many people to Düsseldorf, because I heard public transportation is a hell. But we would like to see you next year. For those who haven't seen it, Jonathan made a lot of pictures. They are already online. You can also see the link on the website of Camp Venlo on the program. And of course you can see all the videos. So if you want to look something back because you missed one session, you can always look it back. And of course we hope to see you again next year at this location. The plan is to be there at between March 5th and 7th, but we have to schedule a little bit with other camps if we don't interfere with each other, but that's at the moment the plan. So thank you very much, a good trip home. See you again next time somewhere.
everybody.